It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Thursday, December 28th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is glad we're playing hockey again, Russ.
Yeah, it's always nice. I mean, World Juniors is playing, but I know you mean the NHL.
Yeah, we are going to get into the Flyers versus Canucks and check in with those very World Juniors all on today's show.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at @rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. You can find us over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, on yesterday's show, we talked about goals heading into this Western road trip. And one of them that we talked about pretty extensively was having a call up for the forwards to take on the road trip, because obviously you need one in case of injury and stuff. That actually made sense, and maybe give them some ice time and see what was going on there. But alas, that was not to be. Rhett Gardner was the official call up for the road trip. So I'm going to go out on a limb and assume he's going to be in the press box unless there's an injury.
Yep, I think that's safe to say. And John's keeping with his, less things to worry about. Why have a young guy up there and that I might have to actually figure out what to do with? And I'm saying it like that because honestly, this is where he's at this point. He is not putting in any extra young talent where there's opportunities for that. He's just not doing it.
Yeah, and I think he's doing a pretty decent job with the young guys that are there now. It's just like, how is he integrating the future of the Flyers into this team that we're talking about here?
Yeah, and that's the part that I think has to change. But some might say, "Well, they're winning, Russ," and I'm like, "Well, they could win with these guys too. There's a way to do it."
Yeah, so we did not get our hope, wish, and dream for this road trip as far as that goes. I do think that the Canucks pose a really, good benchmark of competition for the Flyers here, because the Canucks are a really good team right now. They are most certainly not exactly the team that we saw at the beginning of the season, where the Flyers won that one. And I was looking at the lines from back in October that the Canucks put out there versus now, and man, the fact that they basically gave up on Beauvillier and Studnicka, who were like in the lineup then and are gone now, like it is a really different team.
Yeah, I mean, JT Miller's a top 10 guy right now in the league in scoring. Kuzmenko, they're having trouble with. They're actually trying to get him going. But Elias Pettersson's doing great, and Besser's having a great year. They're staying healthy. Garland's picked it up a little bit. Guys like Lafferty are kicking in. Their defense is really what's improved, though. When they got Hronek, we talked about it. It was a big deal. They have Zadorov and Myers, which is a lot of size. Ian Cole is Ian Cole. He seems to always play well. And, and I think against the Flyers, I think we'll see Thatcher Demko. I don't think they're going to, wait to put him in against Ottawa. I think he'll play against the Flyers.
Yeah, I think so too, as far as the goaltending goes. And I think, it also goes to our conversation yesterday in terms of the Canucks D that you were just talking about, because we were talking about, what Tortorella said about them relying too much on getting into the zone on the rush and not forechecking enough. Well, this is a defense that they're going to have to forecheck more against, right?
Yeah, because someone like Quinn Hughes, forechecking's is one thing. You definitely want to finish your checks, and then also going deep when you're looking for that offense. Because if you do that and Quinn Hughes has the puck, he can make that cross ice pass or down the ice pass very easy. Like, it's not hard for him, and they're going to get breakaways that way. And then that's where you have to watch a guy like Kuzmenko, actually. So be careful with that. That's where they, I think, need to rein it in a bit, and maybe start the new year off a little conservative.
Right. Well, we're not technically in the new year yet, but I know what you mean.
New hockey.
Yeah.
To me, it's the new hockey
Post-break.
season because it's like they
Yeah.
had the break, so it's post break.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that. But yeah, I think this is exactly what we're talking about yesterday, right? Where we're trying to figure out what are the goals for this road trip and what adjustments do they have to make at this point in the season. And against a team like the Canucks, like they're going to have to watch those little things that we said they needed to fine tune. So they have to be more aware in terms of getting a rush in the opposite direction, right? They can't be cheating too far forward, especially with the blue liners, because they are going to get burned if they don't do that because of guys like Pedersen and Miller and Besser. And like there's just too much firepower on the Canucks for the Flyers to get caught, with, 3-on-1s or something like that here.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I would feel this game out and see, how the other team looks coming out. Don't go too far in either direction, and see what you've got. We're also going to see what the Flyers have got. This is like they're coming back from the break. They're playing like a day later than some other teams. They're on the West Coast. We'll see if they look good or not, if they're ready. I don't know. I would imagine they're going to practice before this game. I don't know. I don't think they can practice the day. Well, they could practice the day before because the season starts, but I don't know when they're getting there. So, you would hope at least that they have a skate so they can kind of get things going.
Yeah, and I think that that's going to be really important because the Flyers cannot get off to a slow start here
Oh,
simply because of how the Canucks perform offensively. So their shooting percentage is at 13.8%. The Flyers is at 9. That is a huge
start.
gap there.
Yeah.
Yeah, stark difference between them. But if you look at the scoring chances percentage and high danger chance percentage, the teams are pretty close. And the Flyers are actually ahead in high danger chances which means that, it's something we've been talking about. The Flyers have to finish more. And that's
They actually have
something,
to put them in. Yeah.
yeah, because then if you translate that into actual goals, the Canucks are at the top of the league in goals for per game at 3.86. So almost 4 goals a game on average. That is tough.
Yeah. Well, I said 4 is going to win this for whoever gets it. And I do believe the Flyers would have to score 4 to do it. I do.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that solid Canucks defense have the second best in the league goals against per game at 2.37. So the Flyers are going to have to score like 2 more goals than they should essentially in order to win this one. And that's why they have to be so disciplined defensively.
Yeah, I think so. But they may look at this and say, hey, we got to get the first one on the board. Look at our record with that, and may go all out for that. And that's, to me, it's risky, but they may try that. Wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting strategy because I don't know that just getting the first on the board is going to be enough with
I know,
with these Canucks. I,
but
I
they'll have
just
numbers. Somebody will pull out that number. When they score the first goal, they're winning 74% of their game. Like,
right.
someone's going to pull that out. So I just feel like that could end up being a factor here.
Yeah, it could. The other part of it is that we've been talking a lot about the Flyers power play, for weeks and weeks here. We talked again about it yesterday in, can they just blow it up and start over with this power play? Try some new things, just different combinations. You mentioned specifically changing up that power play too, almost entirely, and getting Risto out of it. I completely agree. The Canucks penalty kill is about 20th in the league. So there is this opening there for the Flyers if they could take advantage of it.
Yeah. The thing is, though, you can't, when you're on the road like this and you're playing a back-to-back situation, you're not going to get enough practice to be able to blow up the whole thing. That's why I'm just looking to change the second one. But you're still going to have to play the
Mhm.
top power play the way they are because, there's not much opportunity to see how you're
Right.
going to be with change. So yeah, there's a slight opportunity here, but again, they got to nail it. Like Tyson Forster can't miss the net. You know, is Tippett still going to be on power play too? If they decided that that's where he stays, like there's you have to see how they sort of set things up. Is Frost going to be part of one or two? Like Frost's, his zone entries are really good. They're probably the best on the team. Doesn't always equal points, obviously, but at least it gets the other team moving.
Yeah, one of the other things you brought up specifically was getting more plays started on the power play from behind the net.
Yeah.
And the Flyers actually have a decent shooting percentage when they're, initiating the scoring chance from behind the net. And, the Canucks are actually terrible at that. They have a 0% shooting
Wow.
uh, from behind the net. But the Flyers, they're actually pretty solid at it, and they should do it more.
They
And so that
definitely
was a
should do
very
it more. Like that's just the
yeah.
eye test for me that says that, and make it somebody like Konechny that's really passing inclined and can really make some great plays. Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah, and Frost, I think, is good at it too.
Yeah, Frost is good at
Um,
it too. No question.
yeah, so I would love to see more of that. Well, the Flyers do play the Vancouver Canucks at 10 p.m. Eastern. You can catch every second of the Flyers' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search for Flyers. In the meantime, like you said, the World Juniors are going along strong, and we've got some results and Flyers prospects to check in on, and we will do that for the rest of the show coming up next. You know that feeling when your favorite Flyers player scores a hat trick? If you want to get that feeling and win 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. As the official daily fantasy app of Locked On NHL, Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. You can also play daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, and college football on Sleeper, and entries can be made in under a minute with elite players like Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, and Austin Matthews, plus the new guys like Connor Bedard. All you need to do is make more or less picks on stats for any of these stars. You choose from stats like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you have to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail those picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. On tomorrow's show, we are going to recap the game we just previewed against Vancouver and look ahead to the next game versus the Seattle Kraken with Erica Ayala from Locked On Kraken. So that should be a lot of fun. Tune in to that. The World Juniors, Russ, it is the most wonderful time of the year, as we said, previewing the tournament. It's really difficult this early in to look at overall tournament stats and glean anything as far as I think individual players and what they're doing. But I think we can look at the tournament as a whole and team play at this point, right?
Yeah, you definitely can. I know you wanted to mention Finland and their 2 losses. Germany beat them first time in what, 25 years.
Yeah.
Something crazy. I was watching that game. Uh, a guy who's really good in that game that's taking an interesting route is Julian Lutz. We talked about him in this draft year. I made sure I interviewed him. I liked him. He was big. He's fast. He was raw at that time. He didn't start the season with any team in North America this year. They had to sort of wait to get him into the USHL, and the Green Bay Gamblers did. I kind of knew about that, so it was interesting. I knew he was heading there. Now he's played 19 games there. I think he has 23 points. So he's ripping up that for his North American debut and doing great in this. So Finland's got some good players. Kasper Haltunen looks great. His shot looks great with San Jose. He's a San Jose pick. He plays in the OHL. And I definitely like Hamanaho, who's a Devils pick. He's looked good, but haven't been able to put it together. Their defense hasn't been good enough.
Yeah.
They have some draft eligible guys that have come up a little short too, like Hellenius and Pelkinen. Pelkinen was good until, I don't know, he went down on a kind of a weird play, and then that seemed to bother. But Consta Hellenius, who I thought looked good in the first game, has not really been that good, but he's young. He's going to be a high draft pick, though.
Well, that's the thing for me is that I thought Finland actually played pretty well against Canada. The score was 5-2, but that doesn't really reflect, I think, how that game went. And Finland had a really big push toward the end of that game that I thought they looked pretty solid. I didn't think they were ever going to win that game, but I thought they looked better than the score would suggest. Yeah, and then that loss to Germany I thought was very surprising.
Yeah, it's Jesse Pulkkinen. I'm not sure what name I said, but I was getting him mixed up with Sandin Pellikka for Sweden for some reason in my head. But he's 6'7". He's going to be probably drafted late first, early second for Finland. But again, in this tournament, the younger guys a lot of times can get manhandled. And Germany was just faster. Like, they were opportunistic and faster. It was really impressive, actually.
Yeah, I thought so too. I think there's always a lot of consternation around Team USA and Team Canada and digging into the minutia of it all. The slow start against Norway, which, obviously the USA is a much better, much more talented team than Norway. But you look at the 4-1 final score of that game where like USA didn't score until the second period of that game. Is this just getting the rust off? This is the way the tournament starts thing.
Yeah. I wasn't worried about anything. I know people wanted them to win like 12-1 or something. Doesn't always happen, but they played solid. Trey Augustine played solid in net.
Yeah, he did.
Jay had a good game. I really like the fake shot pass on the power play that helped set up a goal from Isaac Howard. That was great. He also had a couple other chances on the power play, shot a little high. He's going for the top corner, so that's fine. I mean, let these guys sort of get into the rhythm. I mean, Nazar had a couple of nice breaks that could have gone in. Gavin Brindley looked terrific, right, with his 2 goals, his speed. But his shots really come along. He wasn't known to be like a big-time scorer when he was drafted, but there always was a potential that he could get better at it. So we'll watch him for the tournament. He looked good, and, right now the U.S. looks strong. So really, so far, so good. I don't see any problems.
Yeah, I definitely thought Cutter Gauthier had a solid game. I did think that he looked impressive, most specifically on the power play, like you said as well. I just thought he was really heads up. And yeah, I think like now they've got things going. In theory, they should be able to just roll with it. Now that they've got sort of
They're
that
going to have
chemistry
trouble on New Year's
going.
Eve with Slovakia, though. They will. Slovakia is
They will.
And Slovakia is bigger, and the U.S. defense is not bigger. And so that's going to be a game where they need to get goals early, but it's hard because Adam Gahan is a terrific goalie. I'm working on a top 5 goalie list, and he's in it.
Yeah, we talked about him in the draft preview stuff last summer, and he was definitely one of the goaltenders I was interested in the most in that draft. Slovakia, I think, is the other big team in this tournament so far. Like you mentioned, they've got 2 wins under their belt so far, and like I would say dominant wins. They weren't like close.
No, these were impressive wins. What's interesting for them is, and I talked about him in his draft year, Sam Hanzik, and I talked about him pre World Junior show too. He's got a couple of game winners. The thing about him is, though, like, he gets hurt a lot. Like, he was hurt, only played 43 games last year, and then he was hurt again this year where he only played 5 games. And I think he had 9 points, but only played 5 games with Vancouver before this World Juniors. They got him healthy, and he's playing great. He's got that size and that skill. So that's a big combination for them, and so far he's come up big. Flyers guy, Alex Čiernik, his speed looks good, but he's not been able to finish.
Right. It doesn't have any points yet in those 2 games played. And considering how many goals that Slovakia has scored in the tournament so far, which is 9, and the fact that he hasn't been involved in any of them is like, kind of hope he gets going a little bit over the next couple of games.
In lines. That's what's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I would guess that he might do that. But hopefully he can turn things around and
Mhm.
get back up there and get on the scoreboard. But there's a lot more to talk about with this tournament thus far. We haven't really even talked about Team Canada yet and Oliver Bonk. We will do that coming up next.
As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Again, I would go with the over for the Eagles against the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are playing a little better lately. Kyler Murray is a quarterback who hasn't played much of this year, but has been playing better lately and can be dangerous. Jalen Hurts can be dangerous. So I think there's a lot of points brewing there. Anyhow, just visit fanduel.com/lockedon and get in on the action this NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today over on YouTube and subscribe. Oliver Bonk and Team Canada. Now, Canada won that first game against Finland 5-2. As we talked about earlier, they are playing Latvia as we are recording this show. So we don't have the end results there. But Oliver Bonk did get moved down to the third pairing for Team Canada for this second game against Latvia. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think they're trying to keep their 195 to 200 plus pound defensemen on the top four. I think they realize, look, Bonk's not going to really get any points, and he really in these kinds of tournaments is just not going to get points. He's not going to get power play time. 5-on-5, maybe he gets a rare assist, but he's just not going to. So unless he was playing at the top of his game physically and otherwise, where physically he was losing some battles, that's why. It doesn't mean he can't move up again, but I think for now that's where he's going to stay.
Yeah, I didn't see anything particularly wrong with his game, especially in open ice. But you're right. I think, especially in those board battles, I saw him lose a couple of those. He was just getting out muscled because he is much smaller than some of these other guys. And, that's something he's going to have to work on and adjust and figure out a way to win those battles. But he has time. That's the great thing about, about the development and defensemen is that he absolutely has time on this, and this tournament will be good experience for him.
Yeah, he'll do this. He'll go through the rest of the season. He'll do this again. It's one of those things where, yeah, with defensemen, it could take 3 to 5 years to get to the NHL. Don't rush the guy because there's some good talent there, but physically he's just not ready, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think so as well. Team USA doesn't play its second game until Thursday, today, and that would be against Switzerland, which is a country we haven't, and a team we haven't talked about a lot, just because there's like a Flyers presence there anymore. But they did get shut out by the aforementioned Slovakia, and so in theory, this should be a chance for Team USA to build on what they did against Norway, right?
Yeah, I think it will be, whether it's super high scoring or not remains to be seen, but it really should be a game where they could take care of things pretty easy. But again, you never know. Like, you just can't take your foot off the gas in this tournament. I think we've seen that enough times with just that teams could get stung. So I don't really have a good beat on the Swiss team. I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to it. So I'm not even going to give you players to watch because I just don't have them right now. But that said, these teams, a lot of them have pride. And so you just have to make sure you could take the will away early. That's the big thing.
Yeah, and I am not envious of Team Sweden, that's for sure. Their next two opponents in a back-to-back are Germany, who we just talked about, kind of upsetting the Finns, and then they gotta face Team Canada. So
Yeah,
the next couple of games are going to be rough for them, I would say.
it's going to be rough. Yeah, I think Canada will. One Swiss player he hasn't played yet, Liam Bichel, who's 6'6", can really lay a wallop and play good defense. Whether he gets in there, we'll have to see. But that's something where we don't know yet. But anyhow, yeah, I Team Canada should roll in this game. They're going with the same goalie, Rousseau. He's done
Yep.
well. Again, don't know a ton about him because he plays in the queue. I don't watch a ton of queue games, and the queue's the league that I watch the least. But so far, he has shown a really good glove and made one of the better saves in the tournament. So he keeps doing that, and I think Canada's defense is, as advertised, good, and their offense. Celebrini's already got a goal. I don't think he's scoring at a Bedard pace. I kind of mentioned that. I just don't see that.
Yeah, and of course, like as we just said, Oliver Bonk probably won't get a ton of points. He just got an assist on a goal for Team
There
Canada
you go.
on the power play, so good for him.
That's
Um,
nice. Yeah, because
'cause
sometimes he's not going to get on the power play. Like
yeah,
sometimes he'll just roll
yeah.
that top one, and he just won't get any time. That's good for him. That's awesome.
Yeah, glad to see that. But the other games on the Friday schedule, so Team USA will face Czechia, which I think, it's a back-to-back again, but I think having played Switzerland the day before, that should be good confidence boosting to face a slightly tougher team from Czechia, right?
Yeah, and Czechia's got Michael Hrabal in net, and so that's a game where you just can't take it for granted. They're going to get good goaltending. I
Right.
think Kulich had a hat trick for the Czechs, right? Yuri Kulich from Buffalo. So, he's a Sabres pick. He's a big time player. And this tournament could be one of the best scorers. So you still got to be very careful.
Yeah, and then Slovakia with Alex Čiernik is going to be playing Norway, and Latvia will be facing Finland. A good chance for the Finns to get their confidence back, I
They
think,
need to win
in
in
that
the
game.
worst way. They
They
can get
do.
ugly if they don't.
Yeah, they absolutely need that. And then there's, of course, a ton more great games over the rest of the weekend. And we're going to check in again with the World Juniors tournament first of next week. So there'll be a lot to catch up on their very exciting tournament. Any other overall words about World Juniors so far?
Yeah, I mean, a guy who I really liked in the draft that some people had sort of picked apart, Edward Shala has 4 points. I think he looks really good. He's got a few goals, so that's nice. Right now I think we're seeing a lot of good goaltending. Gayon, Augustine, Rousseau. Goaltending's been really good. And again, if if Slovakia keeps getting this goaltending, I'm really worried for the U.S. On I've had some really bad New Year's Eves with the U.S. losing. Used to be to Canada most of the time on New Year's Eve. Now they're not playing Canada, and you got to worry about Slovakia. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, luckily they have the earliest game of that day, so they'll get it over with and have their New Year's Eve
Fair enough.
regardless. But for us on tomorrow's show, we are going to recap that game that we previewed today against the Vancouver Canucks. We're going to have our Locked On crossover with Locked On Kraken and Erica Ayala. So that will be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. And that will do it for today's show. I am Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.